That's for me to do, for me to find the love inside me, to find the connection inside me, to find it all, because it's all in there anyway. Because, if God himself appeared to you in the morning, and that's a very Irish way of describing it, whatever feelings you have in the presence of God, if God appeared to you in the morning, they wouldn't be in God's body. They'd be in you, inside you. So they're in there. They're in there, and that's great news. Hello friends, John Dalton here for the Emergence Podcast, where we go into love, consciousness and the mystery. In this episode we're going into passing through the psychic world on the way to the mystery, using oracles for clarity and not distraction, and finding connection inside. Now, in response to the question I posed on Instagram, what's the biggest challenge you're facing in your spiritual life at the moment? This person says it's the mystery, or the journey through the psychic realm to the mystery, and feeling lost in the void. Not all the time, but sometimes. Well, that's the weird thing about the mystery, is it feels like you're going somewhere, but it's immediately available, because it's there all the time. But our minds have to that's too simple, or it's too multidimensional all at the same time. So we have to think of it in terms of, we don't have to, but it helps to think of it in terms of depth, and not death, depth, and this kind of idea of strata, so you're going to sleep and you're thinking, so you go through the thinking realm, then your thinking becomes fantastic, so you're going through the dreaming realm, then it becomes kind of impersonal and even more fantastic, and you're going through the psychic realm, and then you drop at the bottom of it into deep dreamless sleep, and that's the mystery. But in meditation, it doesn't feel like that. In meditation, you don't consciously go through the psychic world. You're not kind of, oh, now I'm going through the psychic world. How the psychic world interacts in meditation is in the attempt to influence you. Now, it doesn't matter whether the attempt is to influence you in a positive way or a negative way. That doesn't matter. It's still influence. The mystery, on the other hand, doesn't try and influence you at all. The mystery is, compared to the psychic world, it's nothing to speak of. So, like meditation, the way I do it and the way I teach it, is boring as. It's so boring. And there's nothing to, there's no mantras, there's no guided visualization, there's nothing. Because in the same way that I was taught by my spiritual teacher, Barry Long, the whole point is to stop your mind. It's to stop it from, it's to see what's there when your mind is not there. And that's not easy to do, because we hear people talking about the illusion and all that. Like, one of the biggest illusions we have going on is that we are a thing, that our mind is a thing, or that we are our mind. So when you meditate with the intention of stopping that, that's very disturbing to your mind. So my mind comes up with, well, number one, it has trouble stopping completely, which is one of the things that people bounce off when they come across meditation. The number of people that I've helped meditate or learn to meditate who have started off by going, oh, I tried meditation, I'm no good at it, I think too much. Like they're the only person with the mind. But it's so easy to feel like that. And it's more to do with the way that meditation is phrased and how it's presented. And this idea of being, like a Zen monk where you don't have a thought, and you see it in movies, and they're just completely still, and you think, oh, that's what meditation is. That's what I should be doing. The reality is not like that at all. It's carnage on the inside. It's my mind repeatedly trying to think of things, repeatedly going, oh, what about the did I leave the cooker on? What am I going to do for my holidays? Or why don't I go on holidays? Or why did that person say something? It's just relentless, okay? And it's a process of stopping it, because thoughts are, your mind, thoughts are just made of pictures and sound, so if you turn off the pictures or you make the pictures stop, which is easy to do, it's just like me saying, think of a pink elephant. You didn't have to figure out how to do that. You just boom, there's the there's the there's the pink elephant. Similarly, you can say, turn off the pictures, or I'm going to make the pictures disappear, and they just do. They just fade away. Similarly with the sounds. Now, I've had people go, well, I can't turn off the sounds outside. And that's not the point. You're not trying to turn off the sounds outside. What you're trying to turn off, or what you can turn off, is the voices in your head, the commentary, I'm doing great at meditation, that voice, anything like that. The voices from the past, voices, just turn it all off so that it goes silent. And you go, oh, that's great. That's how you stop. But that lasts for very short seconds, less than seconds sometimes. And then there's another thought. You hear a noise outside, it triggers a line of thought. So you have to keep repeating it over and over and over again. You're repeating the process of turning off the pictures and turning off the sound. That is so boring. Particularly, the first time you do it, it's really interesting. And so for a while, but then eventually it just becomes like, oh, not this again. Not this again. That's what it feels like to my mind. It's like, it's so boring. Don't make me do this again. And what's really going on is, it doesn't like the demonstration that there is more to you than it. It likes you to think, well, it's not even this. This sounds like it's calculating. It's not calculating. But the idea that it likes you to think that it is you. Because it's a bit like a shark. You know the way sharks have to keep swimming? It's like, I have to keep thinking in order to exist, which isn't the case. You exist, whether your mind is there or not. So, in that, the psychic world will get in terms of the voices, the things that occur to you, because as you become stiller, you do drop down through the layers, but it's not like you're conscious of it. But people can have all sorts of visions, they can see all sorts of things. I just turn them off as well. But what? That's a terrible waste. What about it? Like I could see purple. Purple's a real indication that you're going through the psychic world. If you start seeing purple, you can be associated with, oh yeah, that's the psychic world. But if you're getting messages, if you're seeing things, just keep turning it off. Just keep turning it all off, okay? And you might go, but what about, you're missing out? I haven't missed out on anything. I know I haven't missed out on anything. I've had great things come through from the mystery. The mystery takes care of everything. So my focus is on the mystery because that's what I love, because that's where this thing that I love, this thing that drives me forward in consciousness, drives me forward in my spiritual life, that thing is there. And it's nothing to speak of. Compared to the psychic world, nothing to speak of. So it can feel like a void and it can feel like you're lost, but it's quite easy to orient yourself to the mystery because you can just keep turning off everything. Turning off the pictures, turning off the sound, and keep focusing on that instant after you turn off the pictures and you turn off the sound. That instant is the beginning of the mystery. It's like the gateway into the mystery. But bear in mind, your mind can't go into the mystery, so it doesn't register it. Just like you don't register deep dreamless sleep, yet when you wake up you're refreshed. It's kind of the same. Your mind doesn't register the mystery. That's why meditation can feel like, oh, I just spent the whole time thinking. You didn't spend the whole time thinking. The times that you were in the mystery, your mind didn't register. So all the confusion kind of fades away when you just keep orienting towards the mystery. You keep anything that comes up, you just turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, and keep returning to the mystery. That's it. It's so simple, and yet it's so boring, and it's so off-putting. Because, you know, it's like, oh, can we have some music? Can I have a bit of like nice music? Maybe some whale sound. Could I have just something? That's your mind. That'll be your mind. That's what my mind does. It just finds it so hard. So the feeling of being lost, you can get around that by focusing on the mystery. Just keep, you know, come to the space for the mystery. If this kind of speaks to you, come to the space of the mystery. It's every Monday. Do the meditation training that I have. It's a 4-week thing. And it's all about this, what I've been talking about. That all helps. But in its essence, it is this thing of continually returning to the mystery and using that as your focus. And that way then you don't get lost and you don't have this feeling of the void. I don't ever have that feeling. So in response to what I had to say about the psychic world last week, somebody got in touch and said, can I read tarot from the place of the mystery instead of the psychic world? I think the answer is yes, but it feels different. So yeah, it is different. I consider all these things like tarot, runes, tossing a coin, the I Ching, you name it. They're called, they're said to be divination, but I wouldn't use them like that. Like if you're trying to get some answer about your future, then you are going to tap into the psychic world. If you're trying to contact the dead, you're going to be touching into the psychic world. But if you're using it as an oracle, and what I mean by an oracle is it's a way of, you know, you're a bit confused about something, you're not completely clear. So it's a way of giving yourself, your subconscious or the deeper parts of you, a little way of communicating with you that's not directly. Because on the inside it can be very muddy and foggy and hard to know what the right thing is. So if you use any kind of oracle for that, and you can, you know, the simplest is tossing a coin. And it's not the tossing of the coin that, you know, it's not like you do whatever the coin says, but when you toss the coin, it shows you how you really feel. So let's say you're going somewhere and you're at a crossroads, or you're at a fork in the road and you're like, should I go left? Should I go right? And you go, I don't know. Both of them look equally pleasant and appealing to me. I don't know which way I really feel. I don't know what my gut feeling is about it. So then you go, okay, I'll toss a coin. Heads, I go this way, I go to the left. Tails, I go to the right. Now, the point is not to go left or right whatever way the coin says. The point is to see how you feel when the coin's in the mid-air. Because you toss the coin and it comes down and then it goes heads. And let's say heads was to go left and you hear yourself going, oh, kind of wants to go right. Well, then you know how you really feel about it. Or vice versa, if you go, great, I really wanted to go that way, then you know how you feel about it. So that's a really simple example of just tossing a coin. But you can apply that to the more complicated feedback you get from things like tarot or runes or the I Ching, because different systems appeal to different people. For some people it's the I Ching, for other people it's runes, for some people it's tarot, and then it's even down to tarot decks, you know. The most popular tarot deck is the Rider deck. A lot of people like it. I never really related to it that much. For myself, I like the Thoth deck, I think it's called, the one Aleister Crowley and Frieda Harris put together. I just like the pictures, they kind of speak to me. But, you know, that's me, and it's different for everybody. So the thing is, you kind of know when you're messing with the psychic world. You kind of know you're just like trying to get one over, or you're trying to bend the rules a bit. You just kind of feel it, and the results are never great, you know. It's like somebody else had this comment about, I think, you know, some of the things that Ascended Masters have taught us are of benefit to the world. Of course they are. But that doesn't mean that you can't get the same kind of information, the same kind of useful information from the mystery. So when you're using a tarot, or you're using runes or the I Ching or whatever, and you're using it from that perspective of, I'm just talking to myself here. I'm not asking anybody else to help me. I'm not asking for any guidance or anything like that. I'm just talking to myself here. I'm just talking to the deeper parts of me here. Then you're grand. But if you're slightly opening yourself and kind of going, oh yeah, if anyone out there wants to give me some great advice, don't worry, there'll be a queue of entities lined up to give you some great advice, and it will be good advice, but it will be distracting. You're not helping them, you're just encouraging them, because they're still fixated on existence. So you're not helping them, and you're not helping yourself either. So you can use anything once you keep it within the container that is you, and you don't invite anything in to help you. Then you can do anything. Anything is fine. Any, like oracle, tarot, you name it. Once you understand what you're doing, it's fine. So in response to the question I posed about what's the biggest challenge in your spiritual life at the moment, this person says lack of connection. Then they go on to say, disconnected from authentic relationships with real substance. I moved from the place I called home of the last 15 years, so I don't have any friends in this new place. Navigating a long-distance relationship is challenging too. I'm not religious, even though I was raised a Baptist, but I believe in a higher power, maybe the universe or energy or frequencies and such. I just don't feel connected to it. People say mushrooms and meditation invoke connection, so maybe I'll try those. But I always love listening to your podcasts. Well, that's lovely, thank you. And I can relate, because there's a few different things to it. Now, there's lots of people on the internet who will give you great advice about how to make friends in a new place, and how to find like-minded people, and how to establish deep connection and all that kind of thing. And that's great. So I'm not going to do that, because, as you know, my focus is on consciousness and the mystery and the inner life, in a way, and how it expresses itself externally. And wanting to feel connection to God, to other people, is, from the consciousness perspective, looking for an external solution to an internal problem. And it's problematic because you never really find an external solution to an internal problem. And what I mean by that is, if you take something like love, feeling of love. I want to feel loved. I want to love somebody and be loved. And let's say you do. Let's say you meet somebody, and when you're with them, you feel fantastic. You feel loved. All the child wounded parts of you get parented and taken care of, and it's fantastic, and you feel wonderful. The thing is, from a consciousness point of view, and from your own experience point of view, that feeling that you have in the presence of your loved one is inside you. It's not inside them. You only ever feel things inside you. Okay? And that's it can be a bit of a killjoy. Particularly if you started to say that to the other person. Because what the other person is you could be calling them the love of your life. Really, they are a trigger. So if you start saying to them, oh, you're the best trigger ever, you really trigger all my feelings of love. Well, that's not going to go great in a Valentine card, is it? But it's actually what's happening. And that's why when the person goes, or leaves us, or dies, or whatever, we feel so heartbroken. Because we're trying to, we don't have the trigger, we're disconnected on the inside. Okay? So I think of it in terms of, You know, a light switch. You know those light switches that they have a dimmer switch? They're a dimmer, or you can just press them and then the light comes on. When you're around somebody that you love, it's like the switch gets pressed and the lights come on the inside. When you kind of go, yeah, this is all inside me. All the wonderful feelings that I ever had, they're all inside me now at any time. It's just a matter of how do I access them. When you look at it like that and you begin the process of finding out how to turn them on, it's the dimmer switch. It slowly comes up. At least that's been my experience. And it kind of makes sense because when the person's in front of you, it is like a switch going on and you just feel fantastic. Whereas when you find that love inside yourself, which it's there all the time anyway, it was never in the other person's body, it's always in your body. When you find that, it's more of a slow dimmer switch kind of action. And it's the same with connection, whether that's connection with friends and that feeling of home. That's something that you can have on the inside. I mean, yeah, we're all influenced by our surroundings, but what I have found is the more you look for this stuff on the inside, the more you go, it's all inside me anyway, it's all inside me right now. So I can, aim towards accessing that. I can aim towards accessing it right now. The more you do that, the more it's not like, oh, I love going to this place because it makes me feel so fantastic. I notice I'm less influenced in that way. Like I can be in the city and it doesn't affect me the way it used to. It used to affect me a lot. Now, not so much. Depends on what part of the city, of course, but just generally speaking, cities being places where there are lots of people and buildings and not as much nature as I'm used to bother me a lot more. And it's kind of the same, like I can be with people and I can be alone, and the difference is a lot less noticeable. It used to be very noticeable. So the feeling of connection, it's inside you. The feeling of connection to God or higher power or, that kind of deep spiritual thing, connection, that is inside as well. And just as a kind of a little side note to that, with realizations, so let's say you have a realization of God or you have a realization of connection with God, that can be a very profound feeling and you can really feel it. And it can be like, wow, this is amazing. And then in a week, you don't feel it so acutely. And in 2 weeks, you're not feeling it as much as, in a month, it's like, oh, I don't feel that anymore. I don't have that connection. Often what that is you just got used to it. It's just become part of you. It's just part of your inner landscape. And it's not like you're not connected anymore. You just don't have that feeling of it. It's like that thing that, you often hear about, people talk about enlightenment and say, you have to be in a very dark place to get enlightened. But they're just talking about it in terms of light and dark. But it's kind of true, Like if you're in a very difficult place, often when you have a breakthrough kind of realization, it can be like a light going on and it can be pretty amazing. So I would just check in on that one about the feeling of connection to a higher vibration or God or whatever way you describe it. Not you, but one describes it. That it's not that it's gone. It's just that it's still there, but you don't feel it so acutely the way you did. But the actual connection is the same. But yeah, the main thing is that just to this idea of, am I looking for an external solution to an internal problem? And generally in the spiritual life, the conscious life, we are. That's what we're doing. Nearly always, 9 times out of 10, that's what we're doing. We're looking outside into this illusion and feeling like it has to happen out here. If it doesn't happen out here, it doesn't really count. Whereas when you understand that it's all going on inside you, all the feelings all happen inside you, then you don't waste so much energy looking for the outside solution. That's not to say if you're so moved you don't go and join the running group, don't go and join the chess club or whatever your thing is to meet other people. It's not that you don't do those things, but you just do them differently. Because you can kind of do them going, well, this would be nice, or I'm moved to do this, but ultimately I know it's not going to solve this feeling of not being connected, or if it's loneliness, or if it's heartbreak, or whatever. It's not going to solve that, because that's an internal problem. That's for me to do, for me to find the love inside me, to find the connection inside me, to find it all, because it's all in there anyway. Because, if God himself appeared to you in the morning, and that's a very Irish way of describing it, whatever feelings you have in the presence of God, if God appeared to you in the morning, they wouldn't be in God's body. They'd be in you, inside you. So they're in there. They're in there, and that's great news. Because you can kind of go, okay, well, they're in there, so I just got to find them. And when you find them, or when you go on a quest to find them, you haven't a clue. You don't know where to find them. You're just used to being triggered like everybody else is. But just knowing that they're in there means you begin to look, and you wouldn't have looked before. You begin to ask questions that you wouldn't have asked before. And nicely, you begin to get little glimmers. The dimmer switch starts to slowly turn on, and you begin to feel it. You go, yeah, okay, that's very similar to being in love, or that's very similar to being connected. It's the beginnings of it. And the nice thing is, when you do find them on the inside, they're constant. It doesn't really matter what's going on outside. They're always there. All right, well, that's all I have for you this time. I trust you're well. I trust you're of good cheer. And I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.